So in today's War Thunder video, we have some new and exciting news for War Thunder. The devlogs are finally here. We had one today for the XM800T, and we also had one for Fox 3s, which showed off two vehicles which are coming to the game, which is the F-15C and as well as the Su-27SM. So generally my rule before I'll cover leak list is that there has to be at least 3 vehicles from the leak list introduced in through a devlog or something like that. And even though I would say the F-15C and the Su-27 are pretty easy guesses, I'm still just going to count it because I really want to talk about the vehicles in the leak list because I think they're actually pretty interesting to talk about, and it should be interesting to see if they actually come to the game. So the first 2 vehicles on the list are vehicles that we already know that are coming, which is the F-15C. The F-15C should just basically have the A120 MRAMs, and it should also probably have some increased fuel and maybe a little bit better radar. I mean, I'm just guessing on that just from someone who sees that it's an upgrade from the A, so basically it should just be better. Now, when it comes to the XM800T, this is honestly probably my pick for what my favorite thing is going to be within this update. It's a miniature Bradley, I guess is the best way to put it. It's got a 20mm cannon on it. It should do pretty well if it does get the APDS round. The 20mm is really good, like this sub 2, the little French thing, the SPA. Both of those vehicles with APDS round at a battle rating of 5.7 and I believe now 6.0. Both of those vehicles can perform very well, and this cannon, especially once you get it upgraded, could just feel really nice. If it just comes with the APCR rounds though, this isn't going to be terrible. It's just going to be a pseudo SPA, and as we know for America, they really needed something that to shoot at planes. So maybe this can be something to put in your lineup just for that if they don't give it APDS belt, but hopefully they do at the end of the day. Now we're on to Germany, and Germany gets some interesting vehicles because it's been vehicles that I've seen in other leak lists before, and also vehicles that have been highly anticipated, which is the F4F ICE. So the F4F ICE is a vehicle that should just be receiving AMRAMs. It really shouldn't be much different from the other Phantoms unless they want to give it some upgrade packages for it. But overall, it should just be an upgrade for a Phantom to get AMRAMs. And to be quite honest with you, this vehicle just seems like it's going to be the left out of the bunch because, as we know, there's a lot of F-15s, Su-27s, a lot of different vehicles which I think are just better than a Phantom. But maybe this one is a little bit lower of a battle rating, so you might actually get to have AMRAMs that may be something a little bit lower than top tier. So that could be the big drawing factor to this. But overall, I don't really see this thing ever playing like a huge role within the meta of top tier, especially since you have F-16s already, you have F-15s, Su-27s, Gripens. I don't really see this thing ever actually doing anything special unless it is at a lower battle rating. Now we have a very controversial one, which is a Leopard 2 A4M Canada Edition. So as we know, this is a vehicle that a lot of the UK mains want to see within the UK tech tree, but once again, it's a Leopard. We have the Mexus already in the German tech tree, which is a Leopard. It's a Leopard. I have to say it again. It's a Leopard made by Germany. Why would this ever go into the UK tech tree? Just asking for a friend here. But yeah, it's the Canadian Leopard. It should be pretty good. It's going to be premium according to the leak list. It's going to be one of those things though. It's probably going to be the 11.3 premium that Germany gets, which means a lot of people are going to be able to buy this thing, and then they're just going to get directly thrown into top tier matchmaking, which honestly is not the best thing in the world. But it is nice to see Canada represented once again with another Leopard. Once again, a Leopard. And we should have a lot of fun with it, other than the people who are insufferable because of the flag, and I think that it should go to the UK tech tree. So overall, pretty cool addition, but it would be cool if it wasn't a premium. I think it'd be cool as like a squadron vehicle in some sort of way. So we have one more vehicle for Germany, which is the Condor 2. This is a Project 89 minesweeper. It's a naval vessel. It really does not look that special. It looks like it has terrible armaments just from like Googling the vehicle itself. And honestly, it's probably the forgettable thing about this War Thunder update upcoming if the leak list is true. So now we're on to Russia, which now we have the Su-27SM. So the Su-20SM is basically just a midlife upgrade for the Su-27. It should come with some new cast ordnance for it. It should also come with the R-77, which will give it access to actually using Fox 3 missiles. And then also, if you play simulator, the cockpit of the Su-27SM should also probably be pretty different whenever it comes to the base one already in the game. Now, the thing about this is that it's just a midlife upgrade. We've already seen what the vehicle basically is with the one already in the game. The only difference is with this one is that it will have more options to actually take out, which honestly is just pretty good. And we already know it's coming from the Fox 3 devlog that they released today. So the next vehicle on the list is from Russia once again, and it's a T-80 UE1, which is, according to the leak list, going to be another T-80 premium. What a surprise, we just had the T-80 UD, but the uniqueness from this vehicle actually comes from it's a combination of 2 other tanks, which is the T-80 VV and then also the T-80 UD. So it's just an upgraded version. It's probably going to be the 11.3 premium for Russia because it seems like Gaijin has been wanting to put a bunch of nations to at least have one 11.3 premium. RP France, it doesn't seem like you're going to get one anytime soon, but it seems like it's just going to be be that. It should be able to fire 3BM60, all the, rounds that normal T-80 should fire, and then also have thermals and have pretty good engine. The only thing about it is that it's still just a T-80, T-72 variant of a tank, so you just shoot for driver's hatch, or you shoot for the breach, or you shoot for the lower plate. All three of those positions normally kill the tank. So it's going to be one of those vehicles that's pretty interesting. As a premium, it's going to be interesting if it's actually useful, but we will have to see once it actually gets announced if it's going to be a premium in general. The next vehicle on the list we have for the UK, which is the MiG-21 UPG, which is for India. So this is a pretty interesting vehicle just because it's a MiG-21 that has a ton of upgrades to it. So it's going to be able to fire R-77s and R-73s. So relatively speaking, it's just like the F4F ICE, where it's an older airframe that really isn't going to be competitive in the meta, but it's going to have extremely modern weaponry compared to, the vehicles that it should probably face. Now, at the end of the day of things, it's kind of a iffy vehicle because I'm not really sure where you put this in the tech tree. This is definitely one that I'm kind of where this one's the one that kind of just doesn't make sense. It makes sense as a squadron vehicle because you could just throw it into tech tree just like the Bishma or as a premium or something like that. But whenever you look at the UK tech tree, where's it go under? The Phantoms, the JS-39C, the Tornado F3? I'm not sure where you put this within the tech tree, but we'll have to see if it actually comes to the game because it is on a leak list. The next vehicle on the list is the Sea Harrier FA Mark II. Now this is another Harrier which will have increasingly good weaponry whenever it comes to its actual air-to-air ordnance. Now the problem with Sea Harriers and just Harriers in general whenever it comes to top tier is that even though they have really good weaponry, whether it be AIM-9Ms, whether it be now with this new Harrier, it should have AMRAAMs and as well as Derby missiles, I do believe, we should probably actually see this thing probably do pretty poorly because the airframe that it's on is pretty bad. If you didn't know, the Harrier GR7 right now, if you throw it into an ARB game, most of the time you won't be able to kill anything because everything is going around like Mach 1.5 and you can just not catch it. There's nothing you can do other than let your teammates kind of get people slow for you and you come in with your AIM-9Ms. And I kind of expect the same thing from the Sea Harrier, other than you have the AIM-120s, which should make it be able to at least reach out a little bit further than you normally should be able to with your AIM-9Ms. So honestly, it's one of those vehicles just like the F4F ICE, just like the MiG-21 that is leaked as well, that the airframe is just kind of terrible for it and there's just going to be better options to actually play with these new missiles. Now the next vehicle on the leak list is a pretty interesting one, which is the Churchill AVRE, and according to the leak list, it is a event vehicle. So is it going to be the next event vehicle? Hopefully so, because the Churchill AVRE is a very cool tank. But the real question is, which variant of the Churchill AVRE are we going to get? Because according to my research, there's 3 variants of it. So you have the one with the spigot mortar, which honestly would probably be useless within War Thunder because it has a maximum range, I do believe, of like 100 meters. This is just me recalling information, by the way, so I could be wrong about that. You have the prototype one, which was with a 300mm cannon, which was only prototyped once. So I don't really think it might be that one. Or will we have the post-war FE3903? So there's 3 variants that could possibly come with the AVRE program. If I would have to bet on the Churchill, it's going to be the FE3903, just because that one can at least be usable in some sort of way. So spigot mortar one, I could see coming in as a dreams come true event for War Thunder, because to be quite honest with you, that vehicle would just be completely worthless. You would have to be within a certain range to actually do anything to anybody, and then also the reload on it should be pretty long. So honestly, I'm not really that surprised that, the Churchill AVRE is coming into War Thunder as an event vehicle, because it's been one that's been highly requested from the community. So, and then finally for the UK, we have one last vehicle, which is the Desert Warrior, which is just basically taking the Warrior chassis and putting a 25mm chain gun on it. So it means that it's able to do a lot better stuff than with its little puny little 30mm that for some reason is really terrible on the Warrior. But as soon as you put it on a little scout car with the Fox, that cannon actually becomes really good. So it should just give Britain another IFB, which I think is just going to be really good for it. It should probably be around about a rating of 10.0, just like the M3A3 is currently within the American tech tree. And overall, it is just the UK's Bradley is the best way to put this vehicle. The next vehicle on the list is the J11A for China, and it's a very interesting vehicle because it's basically the same thing as the SU-27SM, but I feel like they're just adding this vehicle, if the leak list is true, because it gives China at least one J11 that will not have access to Fox 3 missiles, which makes it on par with the rest of the tech trees with the War Thunder, because we're going to have F-16s, which do not have it, we're going to have F-15s, which do not have it, we're going to have SU-27s, SU-20, or MiG-29s, that are not going to have the access to these missiles. So I think it's only fair that they actually introduce another vehicle to actually put these new missiles on too. Also for China, we're getting a new SPA unit, which is the Antelope, and it's a very interesting little truck because it's basically what happens whenever you take Just Cause, because this vehicle seems like it came out Just Cause 3 and they just threw it into War Thunder. But it seems like it's a very low effort attempt at making an SPA very cheaply, so Taiwan does not have to spend a ton of money whenever it comes to actually getting up air defenses. Overall, this thing should just be very similar to the Chaparral, where it has the AIM-9s on it. It should do some interesting stuff, but I don't really think this thing is going to be great whenever it comes to actually being an SPA unit. As we know, with the Chaparral, if you see a helicopter or you see someone who is just too far away to actually lock onto, there's basically nothing you can do against them. So I don't know. This is going to be a very interesting addition to War Thunder. Maybe we'll see people using it like the Type 93 and just trying to rush capture points or try to get on top of buildings or something. But overall, the Antelope seems pretty mid as an SPA unit within War Thunder. So now we're on to Italy, and sadly, Italy does not have any other vehicle except for one premium, and it's going to Brazil, which is the A1A. Now, this vehicle overall doesn't make any sense because if you try to actually search this thing up on Google, there really isn't anything that comes up on it. The A1A doesn't exist in my research. If you find someone else, please let me know. But Brazil did use the A1M, which is just a different kind of production model of the AMX International, which we already have within the game. Now, this will be a premium, and to be quite honest with you, it seems like it's going to be a little bit worse of a premium because instead of having the Vulcan, which the AMX has within the tech tree, this premium will have DEFA cannons. So you get 2 DEFAs versus a Vulcan, and 9 times out of 10, I would probably take the Vulcan over DEFAs. But overall, it should be a pretty nice premium, especially if you want it for your ground forces lineups. It should probably still have access to guided bombs, should have access to pretty much everything that this thing had, and it should also have access to Sidewinders with the AIM-9Ls. So the next set of vehicles is for France, and France seems to be getting a subtree for Benelux, which means that they're going to be a subtree, which means they'll have a ton of different vehicles that can actually be added to the French tech tree. And it's going to be one of those things that once again draws a bunch of controversy because you have people who are nation names, or you have people who are very nationalistic to the nation that they currently reside in, and they get pissed off whenever Gaijin is like, hey, your nation needs fillers. You need different vehicles which are actually going to introduce new metas. You need stuff that's actually going to make your nation more appealing to other people to actually play it. But yeah, overall, this is my opinion. I think that it's actually a good addition that they're introducing the Benelux subtree to France because it introduces some really good vehicles to them, and also it should actually give them competitive lineups where they should be missing some vehicles. So for the Americans that don't even know where the Benelux nations even are, you have the Netherlands, you have Luxembourg, and then you also have Belgium. So if you want to go on the Google Maps and figure out where those places are even at, be my guest. But overall, that's what these nations should be within the actual Benelux tech tree or sub-tech tree for France. Now, the first vehicle is the Fokker G1, which is a pretty interesting little twin boom, little low tier aircraft in my opinion. It's a very interesting one because it's going to have a bunch of different armaments that are possible to it, and it should be pretty good for CAS whenever it comes to the lower tiers of France. Now, the only problem is that this is a pretty low tier vehicle. I feel like it's going to be one that's very, very much underestimated of what it can do because it does have a little bit of ordnance whenever it comes to bombs, and then it also could possibly even have some 23mm cannons, which, as you know, at low tiers, if you have a 50 cal on your thing, you can just dominate the ground whenever it comes to that. But yeah, the Fokker G1 seems like a pretty interesting little aircraft. Overall, I don't think many people are going to be excited for this thing, but I do see an appeal to it, especially if you want to play lower tiers in War Thunder. The next vehicle for France will be an actual premium, which is the NF5A. So this is just an F5A for France. This should be pretty interesting. As you know, we've already seen a bunch of F5As and also just F5s in War Thunder, so it's just going to be very similar to those. So honestly, don't think it's a big addition to the game other than it will be a premium. So the next vehicle is a F-16A, but 2 of them. So we're going to have one for Netherlands and we're also going to have one for Belgium, which seems pretty interesting. I'm not really sure why you would want to add 2 of them. I would think, in my opinion, it'd just be better to add like cosmetic skins to them, but maybe there's something you guys can tell me in the comments of why they should add the Netherlands one and they should also add the Belgium one. Maybe the ordnance is a little bit different on them, but overall, I feel like that these 2 things will probably be very, very similar. The next vehicle on the list is for Belgium, and it's going into the French tech tree, which is a Mirage 5BA. This is basically just a Mirage 5F, except for it should have some countermeasures to it, which should make it a lot better whenever it comes to actually playing in ARB. The question around it is does this thing actually introduce anything else other than countermeasures? And if, in my opinion, it probably will be folded with this 5F if this is actually put into the tech tree. Now we have our first actual French vehicle that should be coming, which is the Vectra TML 105. Now, the issue with this vehicle is that there's actually two variants of it, and hopefully they add the variant which actually has a stabilizer, but there's a variant which is not stabilized, so it would just be basically the same thing France has had. Hopefully they add the one stabilizer. It's the same thing. If you remember back in the day, War Thunder introduced for Sweden a premium, which was the CV90 105 TML. This is basically the exact same tank with the turret, but they put it onto a wheeled vehicle chassis, which means that it will be very similar to like Centauros, Roy Cats, all those type of vehicles within War Thunder. So honestly, it should be pretty good. It just really depends on what variants they add, and if they're really wanting to hate you, France, they will put in the one that does not have a stabilizer. So next vehicle is for Belgium once again, and it's the Leopard 1 Cockerel 3 105. So this is a vehicle that's very interesting because it's just a Leopard 1 chassis, but with a very upgraded actual turret. So if you want to know something actually interesting even more about this vehicle, is that we already have the turret within War Thunder. It's on the CTCV for Sweden, and it should probably receive the same stuff whenever it comes to this Leopard 1 variant. It should probably get DM33, laser rangefinder, thermal, stabilizer, the whole 9 yards. The only real difference that this vehicle should see is a lower battle rating, just because the mobility of Leopard 1s is still really good, but it's still not as good as a vehicle which has very good mobility. Probably this thing will be around a 9.7, maybe 9.3 if they really think this thing's really bad. But I would say around 9.7, 10.0 at most. It would be on par with the CTCV, and it honestly should be a really good vehicle. I really do enjoy seeing the vehicle in War Thunder. So these next two vehicles I'm just going to combine because they are for the Netherlands or for the Dutch, and it's the Leopard 2 A4 and the Leopard 2 A6. So two Leopards probably coming to France if the leak list is correct, and overall it should be pretty good. We've already seen these within the game. They're going to be the copy paste that we normally see throughout all of the tech trees, so it is nothing really to actually hinder on, other than there's a really cool variant that has an orange camo, and it's a really good shoot me camo. I'd really love to sit with a War Thunder just to see how many people have to use that camo within the game. So the next vehicle for France is a very weird one because it seems like it's a PT boat, which is the VLT2. It's a vehicle that I feel like they're just adding to France so they can introduce, like it'll probably be a premium. It doesn't say it in the leak list, but I feel like this is a vehicle just to put them on par with a bunch of other nations, because as you know, within naval, one of the most meta ways to win games is to get into a PT boat and just go capture points. So it gives France at least something to do that in, like the other nations currently can. I'll assume that's probably why this is being added within the game, and then it will probably be an introduction for the French coastal tree to come in the future. So we also have one vehicle for Japan, which is the F-15J MSIP. I'm assuming this is once again one of those vehicles that they're introducing to the game, just so they do not have to actually put the AMRAAMs or the Fox 3s onto the regular F-15J, so there can be a variant with them and without them, so it's on par with the rest of the nations. So this is probably just one of those that is just a little bit of a better variant of the F-15J already within the game, but overall not a substantial thing other than armaments that it should be able to carry. So now we're down to Sweden, and the first vehicle is the STRV 101R. This seems like a very interesting one because it's a STRV, like a Centurion STRV, with the Blazer ERE on it. So overall it should be very similar to the STRV 104, but it seems like a pretty cool addition to the Swedish tech tree. So the next vehicle for Sweden is the USH 204 GK. Honestly, I'm not sure what this vehicle is. I've seen a bunch of suggestions of what it could be. It seems like it's a test vehicle of the USH. It could have a 20mm cannon on it, or it could have a recoilless cannon on it. I'm not really sure, and if you know, put it in the comments of this video. But it's definitely one of those vehicles that does not even have a War Thunder forum post on it, so honestly, I'm not really sure what it is. I know for a fact it's not the one that's actually for the Swiss. So 100% not that one, because I know some people said it's that, but it says it's for Sweden. So it might actually be for Swiss. Who knows? Maybe they just didn't do the correct thing whenever it comes to the flag within this like leak list thing. But yeah, overall, it seems like a pretty cool thing. It's the USH, but I'm not really sure exactly what the vehicle is. So now we're on to our last nation, which is Israel, and if this vehicle comes into a devlog, we 100% know that this leak list is correct, and it's the Namer RCWS30, which will be the first technically IFV for Israel. Israel has been needing one of these types of vehicles for a very long time, but the only problem with this vehicle is that it has spikes, and as we know within War Thunder, if your vehicle has spikes, for some reason it has to be like 0.3 or 0.7 BR higher than it really should be. So it's going to have the 30mm Bushmaster on it, it's going to have 2 spike missiles, and that's basically it. So it's probably going to be at the same battle rating that the German one is at, which is the Vickers, which will be a 10.3 vehicle. And as we know, for Israel, they don't really have a 10.3 lineup. They really only have 9.3 and 9.7 if you have the premium, and then your next lineup will be 11.0. But since this is the port vehicle, you can really run it by itself whenever it comes through that lineup at 11.0. It should still do pretty well, but hopefully they introduce it within a good BR range. But if not, then yeah, it's going to be kind of a little bit odd just playing it by itself. But yeah, this is the leak list for War Thunder with the upcoming update. I'm kind of skeptical on it, sort of in a way still, just because there's a bunch of vehicles which have been leaked in the past that have been added to this list as well. And then also it's just 3 devlogs in technically whenever it comes to the vehicle, so we definitely have to see if it is correct. But honestly, I'm like at 80% right now if this leak list actually will be legit. So if everyone has a wonderful day, and I will see you guys in the next War Thunder video.